Hi, it's Delia. Thanks for clicking on. So today, um, a message that wants to come through, Kali wants to give us a message. So I'm going to be um, talking to Kali and seeing what this particular goddess has to tell us about the times that we're in right now. So she says we're coming to the crest of this wave, and the breaks are not going to be one long break. It's going to be lots of breaks in the wave. Personally, when you're ready, you'll have a break in the wave. And what this means is that people are going to be, each of us individually is going to be waking up to something new that we didn't know we were closed off from. And that's going to happen at your particular rate, at people's particular rates. And it's arranged by their highest self. This time that we're in is about, it's often referred to as waking up, or ascending, or there's a T word. The point is that there's a collectively amongst humanity, which is all of us, all the bodies, it's time to move humanity into a different reality, a different consciousness. And right now, our culture doesn't really have much of a way of measuring consciousness or acknowledging consciousness practically. So we're kind of conditioned, especially in the past 50 years with TV and TV shows, kind of conditioned for a single thing to happen, a one event. And although there will be big events, there will be multiple events that are not necessarily obvious. So the break in the programming, the break in this constantly issued hypnosis, individuals will have individual breaks from that, like awakening, like, oh my God, I'm coming out of the hypnosis. And there's going to be a lot of things that happen, information being revealed, hidden secrets coming out, cherished beliefs being revealed to be inaccurate. It's in, and that's on top of the physical disruption that's going on, and that will continue to happen. The obvious lawlessness on the part of the very people who are supposed to impose the law and who are supposed to embrace the law and enforce it. It's a time when there is no black and white, and in every black there's some white, and in every white there's some black. So everything that we know is being shaken up like a snow globe, and it's very disorienting for bodies. So it's a time when if you don't have a practice of being kind to yourself, now is the time to start learning how to do that. When everything that we think we know is shattered or suddenly revealed to not be true, it's very disorienting in a society that bases your worth on what you know and bases your sanity on what you know that's in agreement with what other people know. And all of that is, like I said, it's being shaken up like a snow globe for the purpose of shaking off what is binding each of us and all of us collectively, and has been binding each of us and all of us collectively for some time. Doesn't matter how long. It doesn't really matter how long. We don't need to have a start date for this misinformation. It's just the important part right now is that what we take for granted to be real and true and empirical data turns out to not be. Now, it's not black and white. Part of it, a little bit of it's true, a little bit of it's not. So the reason this is so kind of catastrophic for people is that we are misinformed about who and what we are since inception. And we're trained to think that humans, I mean, some people think that a baby is born like an empty vessel and you have to fill it up with knowledge and information so that they can function properly and have a personality, which is inaccurate. There's some truth in that. A child does need to learn a lot of things, but it isn't that they're empty when they get here. There's the idea, she's showing me a lot of different kinds of books. So like the idea that book learning is it's the gold standard. What you can learn in a book must be real and true. The problem with that is that it implies pretty emphatically that what you know doesn't matter. And you do come with internal knowing. And I don't mean, she's not talking about body personality knowing. This is the knowing that is that infinite, the source of you having this body in this lifetime, your infinite self. So the more you can connect with that, the more you can stabilize, the more you can be aware of all of the changes and be aware of the new information that's coming out, which may or may not really matter to you personally. But it's shifting the very premise of how we live and what we think is true. So now I'm getting a glimpse of what's on the other side of all of this. And on the other side of all of this is social structure and a way of operating collectively that is not like what we've seen in our history books. Our history books are really kind of sales pamphlets and with a particular bias, a particular point of view that's being sold. And what we're moving into is conscious living without that hypnosis, without that programming. And we really can't comprehend program-free living because we've never seen it and we've never done it in this current incarnation. Now, each of us here on the planet right now has actually experienced that in previous lifetimes. So your larger self has a body of experience for living in ways completely other than this. But in this incarnation, the survival of the body since inception depends upon the caretakers caring for you as a little kid. And as a little kid, you had to learn what were the expectations of the environment so that you could fit in. And in that process, disowning and disavowing large parts of yourself. So that's a big part of why all of this is happening, is to completely change that orientation and experience of being conceived and choosing to be on the planet at this time. And then the orientation that you receive once born, all of that is transitioning. So the emphasis of what she's telling me is, who are you without your story? Who are you without your all the different ways you identify yourself? And there's no threatening energy to any of this. It's very much an invitation and a kindness, a softness, with the awareness that some breakage is in the process of happening, is going to continue to happen. Now, I'm seeing a rainbow on the other side of the breakage, which to me is like someday over the rainbow, and that kind of energy of a promised land doesn't really ring true, because it's more of a return. It's more of a return to our actual nature, our true nature. A way of living without all of the personas and imitation and facades that have been required by this particular civilization arc. And it's this particular civilization arc that's coming to an end. So be aware that it can be very scary, but also that underneath the ground, the grid work of this Western culture, let's say, which is based on separation, which is not true, and competition, which is based on insecurity, which is based on separation, which is not true. On the other side of this, there's a lot more ease and thriving for everything. And that this transition is bumpy and it is scary, but there is a you that maybe you have never experienced before, that you have not been in touch with before, that is enormous, infinite, and very, very kind. So Kali is letting us know that the tumultuousness of these times are necessary. I'm getting the birth canal again, that the energy of a birth, and it's really not so. It's a lot less difficult when you're not in resistance. And we get into resistance when we think that we have to be tracking everything with our analytical mind, for instance. And you cannot be tracking everything right now. The mind is not, it's not what the brain is for. It's not designed for that. It's not big enough. So a takeaway message is that you can trust the process. So there are action steps for you to take, and those steps are, what do you sense is the right thing for you to do in any given moment? What is light and what is expansive, and then do that. And know that everybody has their own plan, their own higher self's activities, action steps to take. And we all need to be taking those action steps, and nobody can tell you what they are. You have to do what you're drawn to do. That creates greater for yourself, and by extension for others. So that was interesting. Thank you. All right, so what I'm hearing is kind of for takeaway purposes is there is a lot of tumultuous, there's a lot of crunchy, there's a lot of cracking, breaking of, as Cahill Braun says, breaking of pain is the breaking of your shell of the shell of your understanding. And that's pretty much for the rest of the year. and kind of, like a storm, kind of with breaks, lesser and more stormy. And the invitation to cultivate and start activating some kindness practices. Kindness is not really indulgences, it's actual kindness. Like if you find yourself beating yourself up because you don't know something, or because you got something wrong, allow that to be like a little flag to say, oh, wait a minute, I'm growing here. It's not about right and wrong, it's about growing. And allow yourself some grace. We tend to be the ones that are hardest on ourselves, right? So this is a time to cultivate not being so hard on yourself, and actively, what would a kindness look like in this moment? And that for all of the choppiness and all of the destruction, because destruction is the first step to creation. You have to destroy what has been so that you can have what has never been. And we're coming out of a period of living in this lie of reruns. Everything's the same as it always has been, and it's never going to change. We're the pinnacle of evolution. Nothing's ever going to change again. And that whole myth or lie is crumbling. And what's on the other side is much greater and kinder and more thriving for all than what our incarnations in this incarnation can really imagine. And yet, if you tune in, you can tell in your system, which is larger than your body mind, that you have access to possibilities of different ways of living. And this period is transportation to where we're going to start. Humanity will live that more organic, integrated, cooperative community as we are built for. And that's going to have a great impact on our nervous system and how we organize everything. It's as though everything is organized right now against our nervous system and our nature. And on the other side of this, everything will be organized in support of our nature and our nervous systems. So, all right. Let me know what you think in the comments. Till next time.